My name is Kelly Lyons, and I'm a professor in the Faculty of Information at the University of Toronto with a cross appointment to the Department of Computer Science. And I'm a faculty affiliate at the Schwartz Reisman Institute for Technology and Society. Welcome to the fourth session of the Women in AI series, a collaboration between the Schwartz Reisman Institute and Deloitte. The purpose of the series is to convene leading female researchers to share knowledge and mentorship opportunities for women across the technology sector with a particular focus on artificial intelligence. Participants will explore the development of new technologies and approaches and insights into cutting-edge research from the perspectives of our esteemed guest speakers. To begin today, I want to take a moment to acknowledge the land on which the University of Toronto operates. For thousands of years, Toronto has been the traditional land of the Huron-Wendat, the Seneca, and most recently, the Mississaugas of the Credit. These and other Indigenous peoples across Turtle Island developed complex and effective governance systems based on respect for all life and the intelligence of the natural world. Today, this land is still home to many Indigenous people who are working to reclaim their rights to self-determination and self-governance, and we are grateful to have the opportunity to live and work on this land. Although we may all be joining from different parts of the world today, we encourage you to reflect on the history and relations of the land that you live and work on. Before we begin today's talk, I'd like to introduce our collaborator in this series, Aisha Green. Aisha is a senior manager at Deloitte AI Institute, focused on AI literacy and adoption. She is passionate about fostering partnerships which advance research and innovation initiatives, and has worked closely with early stage entrepreneurs to commercialize medical devices, therapeutics, and information technology applications. Welcome, Aisha.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Kelly, for that warm introduction. At Deloitte, we put trust at the center of everything we do. We use a multidimensional AI framework to help organizations develop ethical safeguards across 6 key dimensions, a critical step in managing the risk and capitalizing on the returns associated with artificial intelligence. Trustworthy AI requires governance and regulatory compliance throughout the AI lifecycle, from ideation to design, development, deployment, and machine learning operations, or MLOps as it's referred to, anchored on these 6 dimensions in Deloitte's Trustworthy AI framework: transparent and explainable, fair, impartial, robust, reliable, respectful, and privacy are all foundational elements that we use in order to build trustworthy AI applications. At its foundation, AI governance encompasses all of these stages and is embedded across the technology processes employee trainings. Together, governance and compliance are the means by which organizations and its stakeholders ensure AI deployments are ethical and trustworthy. From our esteemed speaker today, we will be hearing how AI is transforming the ways in which we develop ethical AI governance models. We'll also hear what it means to be a woman within this space and how our speaker has navigated her career path to ensure that her work has a broader impact on the world in which we live. Our hope is that the conversations that you hear and the networks that you begin to foster through this series will fuel change that is vital for this sector, for both women and allies. With that, I hand it back over to you, Kelly, to introduce our esteemed lecturer for today's session.
Thank you so much, Aisha. A few quick notes before we begin. Our guest today, Professor Arisa Ema, some of you will relate to this, I know I do, has a 10-month-old baby at home, and she wanted to ensure an uninterrupted experience for everyone today, so has pre-recorded her lecture. It's very late right now in Tokyo, late in the evening. Arisa's presentation will run about 45 minutes, after which she will join us live to take questions. I'd like to thank Arisa for accommodating us, as I believe it is around 10 o'clock there, right? So I'm sure it's that little sweetie is hoping to get to sleep soon. During the Q&A, we encourage all participants to use the raise hand function in the Zoom meeting controls. I can call on you to ask your question. You are also welcome to put it in the chat and I can read it for you. To facilitate the discussion, we also invite you to update your display name with your first and last name. So now I'm thrilled to introduce our speaker for today. Professor Arisa Ema is an associate professor at the University of Tokyo and visiting researcher at Riken Center for Advanced Intelligence Project in Japan and research support advisor at AIST Department of Information Technology and Human Factors. She is a researcher in science and technology studies, and her primary interest is to investigate the benefits and risks of artificial intelligence by organizing an interdisciplinary research group. Arisa is also co-founder of Acceptable Intelligence with Responsibility, a study group that was established in 2014, which seeks to address emerging issues and relationships between AI and society. Last but not least, she is currently a board member of the Japan Deep Learning Association and was previously a member of the Council for Social Principles of Human-Centric AI, the Cabinet Office, which released Social Principles of Human-Centric AI in 2019. Arisa obtained a PhD from the University of Tokyo and previously held an assistant professor position at the Haikubi Center for Advanced Research, Kyoto University, where she earned the University of Tokyo Excellent Young Researcher Award in 2021. Now, please enjoy From Principles to Practices, Building an AI Governance Ecosystem with Arisa Ema.
Good morning and good evening from Tokyo. My name is Arisa Ema from the University of Tokyo. I'm really honored to be invited to this lecture series and hope you will enjoy my presentation. So today I would like to give a presentation titled From Principles to Practices, Building an AI Governance Ecosystem. So in addition to my academic hats at the University of Tokyo and Riken AIP Center, I'm wearing a hat of one of the board of directors of the Japan Deep Learning Association, a nonprofit organization consisting of Japanese AI companies and startups. And today's presentation includes my research in the University of Tokyo and also at this Japan Deep Learning Association. So today's topic is about the AI ethics and the social implications of AI. So what do I mean by AI? So in this slide, you can see that there's lots of applications where AI is being used. So in the automobile or the entertainment, the finance, the medicine, or the agriculture, every day we can see lots of AI applications are used in the various areas. And the AI is not only used by itself, but it actually used in the networks and used in the various hardware or the use in the drones or the robots. So it's really becoming a kind of infrastructure that's the AI in the society. So why then we have to think about the AI ethics? So that's because AI, the artificial intelligence, has lots of kind of difficult problems that we actually need to consider. So, for example, the fairness, accountability, transparency, and trust become very important values that when we discuss the artificial intelligence. For example, this slide, I just Google like the CEO of the company or the baby. So here you can see that there's a bias, algorithmic bias that you can see. So when you search the CEO, you can see, especially in Japan, you can see the male as the that actually considers as the CEO. And in the babies, recently the algorithm may be a bit slightly changed, and even if you put the baby, you can see not only the Caucasian babies, the white babies, but also the African American babies or the Asian babies. So it's really important to know what kind of data actually the algorithm used and what kind of input outputs will be that you can see from this kind of search. However, some of you may know that there was this kind of bias against women in the AI algorithms. So here in the Amazon, they actually abandoned their project to build an AI recruitment tool because actually it creates the discrimination against the female candidates. So this kind of thing is actually becoming a problem. And also on this one for the Google's actually racist algorithm creates the kind of labeled the African women people as the gorillas. And so this kind of things always happens. And right now, this kind of thing actually creates the huge issues among the genders or the racial problem. And also, as you can see, there's more technical issues called the adversarial attacks. So here you can see that all the right and left pictures are same in the human eyes. But actually, this right pictures, this gray seal is being actually put on this left one, and in the machine eyes, these can be recognized as an ostrich for the AI. So by using this kind of technology, the hackers can easily fool artificial intelligence. And these can be used to create some kind of fake, the kind of maybe sometimes security issues. And also, I didn't put the slides, but right now the generative AI is actually causing the huge issues. And the AI can actually create the pictures, illustrations, or even sentences based on their database. However, the issues is that they can create. They're not. For example, the ChatGPT. They are not based on the accurate or the correct data, and sometimes writes some false information. And if someone actually believes that as a true sentence, then it can have the very bad influence to the people who actually uses that kind of sentences, and maybe can spread as a fake news. So you cannot truly trust what artificial intelligence actually creates or spread, and we need to govern artificial intelligence. So that's today's my topic. So how to govern artificial intelligence. So from now on, I would like to introduce some of the attempts or initiatives that's being that's being created or that being promoted by organization or the countries. So for example, this one, it's being published by the European Union in 2000, European Commission in the 2019, called the Trustworthy Ethics Guidelines for Trustworthy AI. And here you can see that the very important values, for example, human agency oversight, privacy, data governance, transparency, or accountability. So these kind of values has been actually raised by not only by European Commission, but at the same time, for example, the Japanese Cabinet Office, Social Principles of Human-Centric AI, released the similar guidelines. So as a fundamental philosophy, they put the dignity, the human dignity, diversity, inclusion, and sustainability, and these 7 social principles for human-centric AI. Here you can see like the human-centric privacy, security, fairness, accountability. So actually, I was one of the members who created this social principles, and it's really interesting to see how we actually see other guidelines, principles, and we actually put the similar issues in these kind of guidelines. And not only for the governments or the countryside, as you can see in this IEEE ethically aligned design, this guideline also released in around the 2019 has the similar contents included here. And the interesting thing is that in the first chapter, the title is From Principles to Practice. So what the principle is like this kind of human-centric privacy or like the transparency. So those kind of principles. But since around 2020, we actually faced that how we can make these principles into practices. So how can we build the fair artificial intelligence, how we can protect our privacy by using this artificial intelligence. So that kind of things is being discussed from around 2020. And a similar discussion is being conducted in the Japanese Society for Artificial Intelligence Researchers. And this one actually released 2017, so a bit earlier than the previous guidelines or the policies being published like in IEEE or the Japanese government. And there's also similar this kind of values. But one thing that might interest to like the person from the West, here in the 9th chapter, there's a article saying the abidance of ethics guidelines by artificial intelligence. So here it said AI must abide by the policies described above in the same manner as the members of JSI, the Japanese Society for Artificial Intelligence, in order to become a member or a quasi-member of society. So here, you may consider this is a typical Japanese way of thinking the robot's artificial intelligence as a friend rather than the enemy. So even if there's a similar guidelines ethics created by various companies or the organization, what actually values or what's being put in their guidelines is has a variety. And sometimes it's really interesting to see how the culture actually influences this kind of guidelines. So and the industry side, the partnership on AI create in the, I think this is go back to the 2016, the very early stage when the principles has been created. There's this kind of the research area that they put as important things to search. And also for the industry side, I also wanted to introduce how the global companies in Japan created these AI principles around 2018, 19, 20 or so. So here you can see that the global company like Sony, Fujitsu, NEC, NTT Data created the guidelines. However, also the interesting thing is that the startup company also launched the kind of the third-party committee called the Ethical Approach to Artificial Intelligence. And I am also invited to this committee member. And what I think very interesting thing is that the CEO of this startup clearly stated that the AI governance is a competitive and also collaborative area. And he said that the companies need to have an AI guidelines and the governance frameworks for the management strategies, not for the corporates. What we actually faces now is that without this kind of guidelines or the principles, companies might not be trusted by the consumer or the other companies. So not for the social responsibility, but actually this kind of guidelines would directly influences their reputation or their how they handle the artificial intelligence is actually watched by various stakeholders. So here we actually see lots of principles right now released. For example, here in Japan, like Panasonic, Toshiba, and all those big tech company or the big users companies created this kind of guidelines in the 2020 or so. So in next a few 10 or 15 minutes, I would like to introduce how these kind of principles are actually interrelated by the practices. So I actually introduced a lot of principles made by government or the organizations or the companies, but how we can actually make that into practices. So however, in the presentation title, I set principles to practices, but in reality, the arrows between principle and practices is mutual. So in thinking about principles, the important points are how, what, and who. There are numbers of ways to put them into practices, and I will focus on the best practices, governance ecosystem, and technologies. So firstly, let's open up practices, the principles. So these principles are meaningless if they are created with a bias towards a particular stakeholder. Diversity and inclusiveness is really important values. And in this regard, I'm kind of regret to say Japan still has some challenges. For example, in the social principle of human-centric AI, which I introduced in earlier slides, released in 2019 by the Japanese Cabinet Office, here you can see that only 13.8% of the members are women, including myself. However, on the EU's Trustworthy AI report, released around the same time, has an almost equal gender ratio. So when it comes to principles, the focus tends to be on what is being discussed, for example, like here in the content, so these kind of values. But I think it's really important to know how and who is discussing the topic and to decide the content. So in this sense, I think that the what point is somehow reaching into the consensus. So these kind of values being discussed everywhere. However, when we look into who is actually discussing and how these principles being created or endorsed, so this point is not stated clearly, or well, it's written in the kind of the who created. Or what kind of processes they actually proceed. This point is, I think, really important. And also, a sector-specific discussions is currently underway. Since there are individual issues in sectors such as healthcare, mobility, and law enforcement, it is important to discuss the principle into this kind of areas or the focus on the regions. So discussions of principles for AI is began around 2016, and I think there is a general consensus on what values are important. So in this table, it shows a typology of principles from various reports published by organizations in industry, academia, and government. So one was compiled by Harvard University, and the other one for the Chinese Academy of Science. It is easy to assume that these two worlds, the West and the East, have different perspectives, but the fact that they refer to almost the same document shows that they are generally the same in terms of their classification. Here you can see the similar terms or the same terms like fairness, transparency, privacy, security, safety, accountability. So here you can see this kind of thing, and oh yeah. So as I mentioned in earlier slides, so here you can see in Japan, many companies have been developing these AM principles. So next, let's expand on practice. Currently, various organizations are releasing and sharing case studies on best practices in utilization and future employment. Here, yeah, so how we use the AI in medical area, finance area, or the agriculture, military area. So these kind of thing, we actually need use cases because even if we use the same technology, the application area differs, how they use it is totally different. And also, it is really important to know how those usage of artificial intelligence influences the way we actually works. So the human-machine interaction, how actually it affects our future work is really important thing to be discussed. And furthermore, challenging research is being promoted from the technical perspective, such as trusted AI, explainable AI, sustainable AI. So those kinds of terms as being created and used. And in particular, from the perspective of next AI, I believe that the utilization of AI combined with brain science and quantum will be an area where technological breakthroughs is being expected. And just as important as case studies and technological development, building an AI governance ecosystem is, I think, really important. To explain this, I would like to first consider the industry structure surrounding AI systems. So here earlier, I mentioned that various organizations have published principles and case studies of AI governance, but at present, it is mainly the huge business to consumer, this one B2C companies, known as platformers such as Google, Amazon in the US, that are providing notable AI service and products. So they are leading and discussions. So they are actually leaders of the AI governance discussions. Although the principles and tools they have developed for AI governance can be helpful, it is sometimes technically and economically difficult for small and medium-sized companies and startups to implement similar governance. In particular, in recent years, the ability to develop AI governance is becoming an economic barrier to industry, as government procurement requires includes the ability to develop AI governance. So those with the small media companies or the AI startups, if they cannot create this AI governance or the AI principles, then they cannot actually join this government procurement. And on the other, as you can see, for example, in Japan and maybe in other countries like Europe or maybe in Canada, for example, artificial intelligence is mainly used in the manufacturing industry. So in addition, due to the industrial structure, Japan has many business-to-business, B2B companies rather than B2C companies. And in the development of artificial intelligence and systems, the data acquisition, AI model development, and service provision tend to be done by different companies or the different stakeholders. This makes the issue of who takes the responsibility when an accident occurs in the course of providing service more important. So here, because these companies are the very different entities, it's in the B2C company, it's really simple. Users know who is responsible for developing the AI system or providing the service. But in this kind of long supply chain, users actually only knows only the one service provider they actually buy or they rent the services. However, it's might be unseen who actually created the AI system or who actually provide the service to the other service provider. So these long supply chain actually makes the issues more complex. And the question of where the responsibility lies is it's really important, especially since AI has the feature to learn. So for this reason, in Japan, the Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry created contact guidelines showing several contract types. The guideline for version 1 can be read in English if you are interested in. As you can see here, there are 3 possible types: the providing data types, creating data type, and the sharing data types. In general, when we talk about AI governance, we mean governance within a company or organization, like in B2C company. However, in the case of the industrial structure with a long supply chain, like B2B to B2C, it is becoming impossible for a single company to establish a governance system that can respond to risks. So here, like this one, we need to create this kind of contract, and to consider who is responsible and how the service provider can take the responsibility for the AI system that they are creating. So therefore, here in this presentation, I would like to extend the framework of AI governance and propose a framework to form an AI governance ecosystem consisting of not only one company, but also private and industry organization, public institution, and users to be included in this ecosystem. So this kind of concept we actually created in the study group of the Japan Deep Learning Association. And in this study group, we actually invited various stakeholders that might be included in this ecosystem. So here you can see that audits and assurance, insurance, standardization, accident investigation, monitoring, so the whistleblowing system. So these kind of things should be included in this kind of ecosystem. And here you can see that how we actually discuss the importance of ecosystem. So here we have been thinking about the actors and the elements needed for a governance ecosystem. And furthermore, we also divided the role, who and what kind of people or what kind of items should be included in the R&D guidelines or the utilization guidelines and incident guidelines. So somehow, what kind of item is really important depends on which kind of AI life cycle or we are discussing. So in this way, the concept of AI governance ecosystem is to think not only about the governance within the company, but also about like assessment criteria in the external environment. So what becomes clear in the study group is that these external organizations, for example, like a standard certification or the insurance, or maybe when the things become very complicated, we need to count on the justice judgment. However, so we need to involve all these stakeholders and to see how we can build the AI governance ecosystem. We were considering that this kind of ecosystem is really important, but we're not saying that we don't need the company's AI governance system. So here I also would like to introduce some of the frameworks to discuss the AI risk, called the risk chain model to consider the AI governance. This one, we developed this framework as a project at the University of Tokyo. And we believe that this framework will contribute to ensure the reliability and transparency of AI service and products. So in this risk chain model, it is structured by the 3 layers. So AI model, and the AI system, and the service providers, and the users. So it is important to involve all these stakeholders and start discussing about what is important to discuss when we manage when we manage the risk of the artificial intelligence. So when one company who actually provides the AI services, so this is kind of like a kind of case studies where we how to use the risk chain model. So after gathering these various stakeholders, what we think the very important thing is to identify the critical risk scenarios for the AI services. So here, and above all, I think it is really important to always think that what kind of visions and values that the companies have. So in that sense, all the companies should raise the AI principles. So what kind of values they actually put in the highest level. And to enable those kind of visions and values, we need to focus and to consider the AI service, what kind of technologies or what kind of how to say kind of conditions or what kind of technical issues should be required, and then create the risk scenarios. And then we actually draw the risk chains to discuss how we can manage all those risks. So when after identifying the critical risk scenarios, risk control is considered not only for the AI model, but also for related technology, service providers, and users. So that risk management plans can be developed for the entire AI service, even for risk scenarios that cannot be adequately addressed by the AI model alone. So this is kind of example of how we actually draws the chain. For each risk scenario, for example, this one actually about the fairness. So risk scenario, for example, we can consider about the Amazon's recruiting AI tools. So that was actually abandoned because it has the fairness issues. So to prevent that kind of things being happened, here we, for example, we need to look into the data balance, and we in the AI model we have to think about the generalization, and then we look into the traceability. So these kind of chains, and in what stakeholders have to consider or discuss, we look into it. So for each risk scenario, we examine the risk factors at each layer and the model and the draw chain, and consider the order in which the risks occur. The risk controls are discussed among the parties involved in each of the elements associated with the risk chain. So no single risk control may be sufficient to reduce the risk, but it does not have to address all risks. And in this risk chain approach, it is important to consider the optimal risk control based on the magnitude of the risk and its cost effectiveness. So I think you cannot see how to draw the lines or how we actually control the risk. So we actually put the case study in our website. Here you can go and see all those risks we have been actually created as a case studies. And also we actually put the guide in the website, and both English and Japanese are available. So if you are interested in, please look into it. So here I think I've actually discussed about the importance to look into the AI governance issue, and I think I still have 10 minutes or so to be left to discuss about my research. So in the last part, I think I might slightly change the topic from the governance issue and to discuss AI and future visions, because I think this is really important topics to be shared with you. So previously I have been discussing this how to govern the AI and how to manage the risk of artificial intelligence. However, I think it is really important to discuss the future visions because what we actually imagine directly kind of reflects to what kind of technology we develop. So before discussing about the future, let's go back to the past. So here is the two illustrations. So one with this one with the color postcard. This one is released in the year of this the 1900, which was published when the Paris Expo was held. And here you can see the firefighters flying and doing and rescuing the people. And this one with the white and the black, this one also was illustrated around the 1920. And the title of the book is the Japan and the Japanese People, and which actually contains the various stories and illustrations that depicts the Japan after 100 years ago. So this one actually illustrates the same scene. The people rescuing the people from fires and evacuating from the building or so. However, how the technology is used is a bit different. So in Paris postcard, the people actually fly, and in the Japanese one, actually there's a big like a gondola, like rescuing I don't know how to say the machines, and also I think this huge pump might be maybe watering the building. So even if we consider about the future, what the future technology would like be, there's a variety of ways that we actually develop our technology. So when we go back to the present, right now, what kind of visions we are creating is, I think, like this one. So for the health, I think we all wanted to become healthy, or we wanted to all become happy, or we all desire this stability in our society, the peace, and also nobody wanted to be lonely. We all wanted to be connected to each other. So here, I think most of the people may agree this kind of society, and I guess like the SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals, are actually aiming at one of these kind of items. And in Japan, the Cabinet Office actually promotes the concept called the Society 5.0, which actually has these kind of items. However, when we discuss about the society, and we actually need to be really careful because sometimes this kind of concept is somehow might be technology-oriented way of thinking. What do I mean by that? So here I wanted to borrow the images by the science fiction. So some of you may know or maybe read the novel called The Brave New World by the Aldous Huxley, written in 1932. So in this novel, there's a utopian society depicted. So here, people live healthy, but and also people are actually happy because they are taught in sleep education not to question their classes and environment at all, or the stability. When people feel uncomfortable, one become a pleasant mood, they actually use the drug called the soma. So, and also to go connected, because people come out of the bottle, there's no family, marriage is denied, and people do not always feel alone together, and no one is left behind. So sometimes these kind of science fiction is really kind of evokes what kind of society we wanted to live in, and what kind of technological development actually leads to this kind of dystopian world. For example, the George Orwell's 1984, or maybe in the years of 2000, The Circle. This is also, maybe some of you saw the movies of this one. However, I think it's really very interesting to see how this kind of utopian or the dystopian novel depicts the society. And what I think it's really interesting thing is that how even if at present considers that this kind of new world is dystopian. However, for example, in this circle, I don't want to tell all the story, but this novel, I think the ending is slightly different from this kind of Brave New World. So here in the Brave New World, the main character actually denies this kind of society. He thinks that this world, this new world, is really disastrous. However, in my interpretation, the main character of this book, The Circle, it seems to me that she actually accepts this kind of world. In other words, I think we cannot deny all this world, like this surveillance society, or with the like the technology-oriented society, and we need to govern this kind of society, but we cannot deny all the technology that we were using right now. So somehow, right now I'm using iPhone, I'm using this kind of technology, or using Zoom to record my presentation. We cannot go back, and we cannot say oh no to this kind of technology. We need to seek how we can manage with using this kind of technology. So in the beginning, I talked about the AI has been used in everywhere else, and it might cause some problems. For example, recently the ChatGPT or the generative AI is becoming a huge issue, and some educational organization actually state that the students cannot, they actually prohibits the students to use the ChatGPT. However, I think that's the one way for the educational organization to say that you cannot use the ChatGPT, or you cannot you use the AI translator. However, I think it's really important to not only say no, but to say what kind of thing that those technology can do, and what cannot they do, or what kind of dangerous part that kind of technology has. And it's important to wisely use that kind of technology. So why I say this is because I think we cannot deny the society that right now we are living in. So here is the manga, a cartoon called the AI Gene, wrote by the Kiri Yamada. He is one of my friends, and he actually writes this kind of a bit future society where people kind of coexist with the artificial intelligence. So here in this the interviews, Mr. Yamada actually says that the old dystopian science fiction described control society, a lack of respect for life, cars polluting environment, no trees. From that point of view, we are already living in dystopian world. So in the first part of this presentation, I once went back to the past and how we actually depict the future society. But when we look back from the past, I think I also share the same impression with Mr. Yamada. So if the people came from the past, maybe some may consider that we might be living in the dystopian world. But I think even if we are living in the dystopian world, because there are less privacy here, and somehow the security is being discussed, and we have to we are facing all these kind of issues like the fairness, transparency, accountability issues, and in that sense, I think it's somehow a dystopian world. But although we are living in dystopian world, we have to be we are actually we cannot deny all the society or all the environment, all the circumstances that we are living. So we need to have the kind of positive discussion and positive way of thinking to make the world better. And I think that is what human being can do and what artificial intelligence cannot do. So that part, I think, what the human being has to take the role. So when we discuss about the interaction between society and technology, as I have talked from this presentation, we somehow the AI or the robots or the technology can solve the social issues, but also at the same time somehow it creates the another social problems. So to avoid or although that kind of thing happens, we need to move on and consider what kind of society we want to live in, and how in that sense we can start with the society and then use the technology as a tool to realize that kind of society. So what I think the not good thing is that starting from the technology, so what kind of technology we have, so how to make the society by using the technology. That ways of thinking, we cannot expand our imagination, and in that sense, to imagine what kind of society we wanted to live in, it is really important to have this kind of mutual discussion or the cross-cultural discussion. So I really am interested to know what today's audience considers from my presentation, and I really would like to discuss what kind of thing we can consider as together. And so this is my last slide. In the last slide, I wanted to raise this the Collingridge dilemma. Here, the Collingridge, Mr. Collingridge, Professor Collingridge has actually said that it is difficult to predict the impact of a technology before it is used in society. However, once the technology has become widespread, it is difficult to control. So this is actually a truth in not only for the artificial intelligence, but also to the other technology. But in that sense, the speed of the development of artificial intelligence is really rapid. And when we talk about the artificial intelligence, somehow, for example, in the self-driving car, sometimes we have the special area that those kind of experiment has been conducted, and if they can assure safety or they can assure that the technology is safe, then we can expand it to the more broader society. So in that sense, we actually use that kind of social experiment. However, when we consider about like the smartphones applications or I don't know, like the ChatGPT or the other generative AI, or maybe our recommendation AI when we use the website or the social network services, there's no social experiment. In other words, we can say that we are already living in the experimental society. So those application or those softwares, they might have the beta version, but at least when some kind of criteria has been meted, then those technologies are open to all people, and we each individuals are kind of become the stakeholders, and we actually living in this kind of or we are giving the feedback to that kind of technology. So it's kind of inclined to the technology is actually shaping and interacting in society. So with that kind of rapidly developing technologies, it is the more becoming important that we need to think about what kind of society we would like to live in, so that we can discuss what kind of technology should be developed, or what kind of technology might some kind of needed, maybe the restrictions, or maybe we can say that some of the technologies can be prohibited in a very strong way of saying. So yeah, so that's all for my presentation, and I hope you enjoyed my presentation, and looking forward to have the discussion with you all. So thank you for your attention, and yeah, we'll open the question to the floors.
Thank you so much, Arisa. What a great presentation. I really like the way that you sum things up by talking about technology and society, and working together we can make the world better. And it's one of the reasons I feel honored and privileged to be involved in the Schwartz Reisman Institute. So thank you for that. We're really pleased now to move into our discussion period. So Arisa, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much. And it's kind of weird thing to hear my presentation pre-recorded, but yeah, I hope that you enjoyed it, and look forward to what the audiences think from my presentation.
Thank you. I think maybe I'll take the moderator privilege of asking the first question. As you know, this is a collaboration. This series is a collaboration between the Schwartz Reisman Institute at the University of Toronto and Deloitte, so academia and industry. And I'm going to go back to the earlier part of your presentation. Many of us are interested in being able to build successful industry academic collaborations, and the AI governance ecosystem that you described is a very interesting approach to looking at the challenges of AI governance. Do you have suggestions, perhaps, for key components or mechanisms that others should consider if seeking to establish an ecosystem such as this in their own environment?
Yeah, so thanks for raising this question. Here in Japan, we actually trying to build this kind of ecosystem, and that it's somehow really difficult to involve industry people to this kind of discussions here in Japan, especially because I think the ethical or the legal issues about the artificial intelligence is not so much raised here in Japan, and it's more focused on the innovation side. So however, I think things has been changing a bit, and because some of the artificial intelligence has been in practices, and so what I think the important thing is to how to say starting from the cases. So in my presentation I displayed the risk chain model. Actually that risk chain model the main person promoting this is the person from Deloitte, Japan. So it's really a nice connection that the Deloitte is actually supporting this kind of AI governance series. But anyway, so what we actually think is really important is to be concrete. So we actually demonstrate the risk scenario and show how we can actually kind of identify the risk and how we can collaborate with each other. So rather than it's really important to share the principles like the fairness, the transparency issues, but when we wanted to make those principles into practices, nobody has a clear-cut answer right now. So what we wanted to do and what we are actually doing is to create the scenarios and show how we can start a discussion and how saying that everyone, we need you and we wanted your cooperation, your support, and reaching our hands. So I think there's no clear-cut answer to create this community and yeah, so that's that thing. And I think right now we are doing we are creating some kind of community here in Japan, and those kind of frameworks like ecosystem or the risk chain model, the framework, I believe that all the other organizations are having this kind of similar frameworks or the scenarios. And right now, I think the huge issues is how to make it interoperable or a compatible way. So in that sense, if we can create the same jargon or the same platform to discuss it, then maybe maybe we can make it at the start point.
That's great, thank you. In fact, speaking of risk chain, the risk chain model that you talked about, there is a question in the chat by Rihanna or Rena. Would you like to unmute yourself and ask your question to Arisa? Or I can read it. Someone has to help.
Okay, I'm sorry, there was a brief issue, but hello and thank you again so much for this awesome presentation. But I was curious, when you looked at, there was like an inverted pyramid slide, and the one thing that kind of popped in my mind was, in these discussions, thinking or considering of risk chain, did the group talk about or consider where does entity motive come in? Because I think it does affect when I'm training as an auditor, so thinking about why and what would be the motivations behind this is, how do you see that factoring into considering evaluating risk and developing a risk chain model about thinking about entity motive, and likely it's probably a profit motive that they're developing this AI. Did you guys have discussions about that?
I actually sorry, I'm right now reading also the chat. So entity motive, yeah, I actually did not have that kind of discussion when we create this kind of model, but I think what we value as I don't know whether this is becoming the direct answer to your question, but what we value from the risk chain model is that starting from what kind of social value the company wanted to realize, and so I think recently many of the risk framework or the management risk that actually the company discusses start from the technology. So what kind of thing the technology can offer, and however, I think or we think that we should start from what kind of values that the company can offer or can give to or kind of sorry, what kind of value that the company has, and or the company can provide to the society. And with the risk chain model, so as the triangle says, that starting from the value and then going to the risk scenario, and then also to going to the risk control. So that kind of the how to say not starting from the technology, but starting from the corporate value, the social value is important, and that's the point that we actually value a lot. And sorry, I might be kind of not answering clearly to what you said, but
Thank you, Arisa. I know that I'm going to go to Marie-Claude after Aisha has a question as well. So Aisha, go ahead.
Sure. Thank you again, Arisa, for such a wonderful talk. And I'm glad that in your talk you start to mention generative AI, which I think for everybody is a topic where everybody is excited, scared, and not really sure what to do about it. So with applications like this that are really going at hyperspeed, how do you start to think about and implement ethical, trustworthy practices that can be adopted responsibly?
yeah, I also do not have clear answer to how to handle this ChatGPT or the generative AI, like the stable diffusion. However, I think what we can do for now is to use it somehow. I think that it's not only how the users use it, but when we consider about the ethical issues, one of the very big issue is that who owns the data and how to deal with that data. So what's going on under or the behind the generative AI is really important issue. So right now, when we discuss or the media discusses about the generative AI, we tend to focus how we use it, but on the other hand, our data, so when we actually place with the ChatGPT, all the data is being stored to the OpenAI and all this, that kind of thing. And one of my colleagues, he is he's actually the AI researcher, and he actually very concerned about that OpenAI becoming or already becoming the next GAFA. So they have all the data, and maybe that kind of domination can create the huge gap between or maybe another innovation might be come from there, but on the other hand, it can be become the kind of barrier to the new companies to enter, to it become difficult to enter this kind of innovative area. So from the social scientist perspective view, not only like the ethical discussion or the responsibility of the company, I think somehow we need to consider a more broader way about how our data can be used and how we can handle those new technologies in the more economic or the political way, or somehow it also considers like a security issues as well. So that kind of new technology raises very important issues. So I also don't have clear-cut answer, but I think it's really interesting thing going on, and we should keep an eye on what we can do with that kind of technology.
For sure. Thank you for that guidance.
Thank you. Marie-Claude, please go ahead.
Hi, Emma. Arisa, thank you so much for your presentation. I really enjoyed it. You actually opened up some areas that I hadn't even thought of that AI would be involved in. And I really like and appreciate the fact that your outlook is optimistic. We hear so much negativity out there regarding it, including the fact that women are trying to make a space in there. And I think some of your judgment and your optimism is probably colored by the fact that you're a mother, as I am. And I like to think that some of us are maybe not mothers yet, but are thinking of becoming mothers and have that instinct that's coming out there. My question is actually was raised by some of your presentation in those areas where the in the business world, people will be wary of, security issues and all that. Have you come across or had to address or thinking of how to address things such as intellectual property? If you're dealing with businesses that are, really wary of that in particular, and how does AI or how can AI address that?
Yeah. Thank you for raising about the intellectual property issues. I am not so much the person from the legal perspective, but some of my colleagues are working on that, and I think the ChatGPT also raises have this kind of intellectual property issues, and right now, I guess so who owns the data, and what kind of like the creative products, who has the intellectual property? So that kind of thing is really important. But yeah. So far, I'm sorry, I actually not so much familiar with those issues, so I don't have a clear-cut answer. But one thing I can tell is that here in Japan, many person who's working on this legal perspective is also working together with the technology people and in the creative area. So you said I'm kind of optimistic because I have many colleagues working on the issues that I am not so much familiar with. So yeah.
Thanks for that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Next is Karina. If you want to unmute, you'll be asked to unmute, and then you can ask your question.
Thank you, Kelly, and thank you, Arisa, for the wonderful presentation. So I'm curious on my end, in terms of your career progression and evolution in the last couple of years, what has been one decision, either professionally, that has really impacted your career, or personally that you've made? Just curious your thoughts on that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, for my career, so I think I am right now in academic. I'm doing the more on the research side, not on the education. And also in the introduction, sorry, Kelly nicely introduced that I am also doing the board member of the Japan Deep Learning Association. It's more on like the community with the startup company here in Japan, and also I am working as the member of the committee from the government. So I think in my career I am choosing not to only stick into the academia. So I am interested in how the AI applications influence the society, and in order to get what's going on in the upfront or in the emerging technology, I think I need to have more communication with the industry, and also if I wanted to say something to the more regulatory issues, I have to have the network with the government people. So when I consider my career path, I am intentionally kind of spreading my arms to the industry and the government, and also the academia. And in that sense, I'm right now in the academic field, but I am not so much stick onto the academic field. If I feel more interesting things going on in the industry, I might be jumping to the maybe the startup people. So Yeah, maybe I'm more on the curiosity driven, and I think right now here in Japan we are entering the super aging society. So many people are actually working even there in the 60s, 70s, and I think it's not the era that the people are staying in the all same place. So once you are into the academia, you end in the academia, so that would not happen. So I think what right now I'm considering about my career is that I go where I think I am very interested in, and where I can where I can work as flexible with my boy. It's 10 months old, and in that sense, career path, well, it's really important that so when I consider my like the work-life integration, I think right now academia is a good way to do my research, but yeah. Sorry, I'm kind of messing around what you've asked, but what I wanted to say is that I actually am not strategically considering about my career path, but so far I am going where I think I'm interested in, and in that sense I am wearing a couple of my hats, and that kind of risk hedge of having the multi-position actually helps me to consider my next career.
I think that's a really nice advice, nice for students on the call to hear. I after my PhD, I worked in industry for a while before joining academia, and really being curiosity driven is nice. We talk a lot in academia about what I just learned is called alt-ac, so alternative careers to academia, and I think it's nice that we promote those, and that's one of the ways that we can solve all these really important problems. Maria, you had a question. Please go ahead.
Thank you. So like I had said in my comment in the chat, I'm working on a research project. It's totally theoretical, so it's like a virtual community project, and it's an AI solution for what I do in my day-to-day, which is corporate intelligence investigations. So because it's a theoretical exercise, I'm just finding information about what is out there, existing solutions, existing research, and I'm having a hard time finding reliable information that's not, doesn't seem too biased or isn't really, like you had said, maybe close to science fiction in some cases, or it's not peer reviewed because it's so new. Do you have any advice on an approach that I can use, or research sources, or tools that you would recommend?
Yeah. So sorry, I am not so much familiar with the what you said about the theoretical point of view. So you need the information that is not, you said, the biased. What kind of information, for example?
Yeah, good point. So a lot of the older sources are early stage solutions that maybe had some difficulties being implemented, or they weren't strategic, or they had some concerns. And then the newer sources, they're not peer reviewed. So I'm just struggling to see where I can find reliable information about AI, about applications, about the development of those solutions.
I see. This might be a not good answer to what you said, but I think the solution for the AI technology is that so when we talk about the term bias, I think we need to be very careful, because I think every information is already biased, and not biased information. I think it's sometimes it's really difficult to find. So, for example, I am already biased because I am living in Japan, Tokyo. I'm a woman, and I am kind of stating something from my own point of view, and all the technologies or all the social statement, all those things is already biased. So what we can do is that to understand that all the information or all the statement is already biased, and how to balance those information is really important. So right now, in other research area, we actually conducted the research on how to consider about the fairness, and there's the tons of definition to discuss about what does the fair mean, and what kind of fairness is important to what kind of person really differs. So I think so. Sorry, this also is not a clear-cut answer to what you've questioned, but what kind of bias? Even though all the information is reviewed, it doesn't mean it's neutral. So somehow review is already biased. So I think it's important to see who actually evaluated or where the sources came from, and understanding the biases, and kind of taking into all those biases into consideration and do the analysis or read take the sources is more important, especially when we are living in the society where there's a multiple sources, multiple solutions, multiple informations are, and I would say all the thing is already biased. So what we can do is to take the balance, and not to be inclined or kind of to take some too much reliance on one sources is maybe very dangerous, even though some say that those sources are reliable, responsible. But for example, sorry to drag this into the cultural discussion, but I am right now here in Japan, and when I see some information, some solutions discussed in the European side or the United States side, or maybe East Asian or the African, all those things sometimes feels some very different from what I see from here in Japan, Tokyo. So I think maybe there's not neutral or the neutral resources as a solution. So maybe understanding the biases and taking the balance thing will be important. Sorry, I might be saying a very different thing what you questioned, but
No, I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Maria. Thanks, Arisa. There's a few questions in the chat and a couple that are related, so I'll kind of pull them together for you. And I realize it is very late in Tokyo, so we won't keep you too much longer. We had a question from Yolanda talking about regulations that might be able to prevent the spread of misinformation. And then Aisha had a really interesting point about global approaches. So who do we hold accountable? And you just talked about when you look at things in other countries. Do you have a sense of that kind of global and the global aspect of regulation and accountability for trustworthy AI, or spread of misinformation, or any of the issues that you brought up from a governance perspective?
Yeah, thank you for raising that. Right now I am a member of the I'm serving as the expert member of the Global Partnership on AI in the Future of Work working group. And also, I somehow I talk with the people from all over the world, and it's really difficult to well, it's really interesting to see what's going on in the world and have some discussion with the other people. And right now, it's from the regulatory perspective, the main hot issues that we have to discuss right now is how to make the regulation system interoperability on the compatible, and especially I think in the principle level, for example, like a fairness, accountability, human-centric, or the human dignity, those kind of things have reached some sort of consensus that we think we all agrees that kind of principles is important. But as I discussed in my presentation, when we move on to move those principles into practices, there's a lot of way to there's lots of tools, there's a lot of risk management framework, there's a lot of way to consider about how to audit or how to evaluate the artificial intelligence. And we actually when I say we here, the industry or the researchers actually confuses what's in what way is a sufficient tools or such a sufficient thing that we can do to assess or to manage the artificial intelligence. So in the global level, I think we need to have some kind of multi-stakeholder discussion, and we need also the agile governance framework. So we might have not so much time to discuss using a long time, because as for example, like a ChatGPT, all those new technologies coming so rapidly. So what I am right now doing with my colleagues, and also what I serve in the global community, is that we need to be open about what we discuss, and we can open our discussion to every people, and also sometimes it's really important to discuss the artificial intelligence not as a general thing, but to be concrete and to focus on the application layer. So it's when we discuss about the risk of the medical AI and the risk of the chatbot, it's totally different risks. So like the European AI Act discuss about the high risk AI approach. So when we discuss in the global level, I think we need to be very concrete, and also, like I said, we need to have some kind of risk scenarios, and the kind of similar the basic, the foundational classification discussion. So we need to build some kind of platform to discuss and create some kind of the common language to start this kind of discussion. And I know that might take time, and all those standardization issue or the regulation issues is going on elsewhere. And I know the people, they are working hard to make those regulations or the standardization or the audit issues come to the practice. And so how to say, those kind of global endeavor is really important. And the important thing is to do that kind of discussion in multi-stakeholder, and in that sense, the Asian perspective, and also like the Southeast Asia or the African people might not have chance to be involved in that kind of discussion. So maybe we can reach out our hands and ask them what they think about that, and asking, so starting from the people who might be not able to raise their voices
is really important. And for example, I am doing the board member as a startup company, and they don't actually have the resources or the human resources or the economic resources to be involved in this kind of global discussion. So these kind of the organization or the community network becomes really important to reach those people with the who actually have the difficulty to voicing their what they are doing or what they are thinking.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate your engaging part of the presentation, but also the discussion that we've been able to participate in today with you live from Tokyo. So thank you so much. As you leave the call today, you'll be prompted to answer a short survey. And thank you to everyone who asked questions and were part of the conversation. Please don't forget to complete that short survey in your web browser. We really appreciate and thank you in advance for your feedback. We invite you to join us for our next Women in AI session on March 28th for a talk by Sophia Anadio, a professor in the Department of Computer Science at the University of Manchester. We also invite you to attend our upcoming SRI seminar series tomorrow, March 1st, with Jennifer Rasso, McGill University. You can look for the details of that on our website, Twitter, and mailing list, and which will all be in the Zoom chat. And we look forward to seeing you all again soon. Thank you so much, Arisa, for a great day.